Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So today, as promised yesterday, we are going to be covering sprites once again, but rather than covering some gameplay or a deck profile, I'm actually going to be doing a combo guide. So I'll show you how to pull off combos. I'm going to be using this particular variant of pure Spright for it. So this is going to show like pure Spright combos. We're not going to get into Runic, Tri, or any of the variants in this video. That might happen at a future date. Definitely let me know in the comments below if that is something you're interested in seeing, one of those deck profiles, or not deck profiles, we'll definitely do deck profiles, but combo guides for these Spright variants. But again, today's combo guide, we're just going to be focusing on the pure variant of Spright. Now, my variant is playing Deep Sea Diva and Yamatako Orochi to show off a couple of combo lines, as well as I generally like it to have access to Baron de Fleur. It is notable that instead of the Deep Sea Diva, that you can run the Nimble Beaver and Nimble Angler as well. We'll be covering combo lines that can utilize these cards. We won't use them specifically, but basically if I say a level 2 monster, as in you need a level 2 monster for a combo, then you can consider Nimble Beaver and or Angler, some amount of those in that play as well. We will, however, be showing a combo line that is exclusive to having Diva and Yamatako Orochi in the deck as well. So this is the build I'm going to be basing the combos off of. Really, it doesn't need to be necessarily this specific build. You're mainly just worried about the Spright monsters, having those in the main and extra deck, and then of course having the Swap Frog engine. This is a level 2 engine that I do think you need, especially in pure Spright, and it will be necessary for a lot of these combos we're going to show. But again, as far as your supplementary level 2 engine, it could be Diva, it could be Diva with or without Yamatako Orochi, or it could also just be, again, the Nimble engine. Alright, so yeah, let's go ahead and... yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and start showing off these combos now. I won't bother breaking this build down card by card because we already did so in yesterday's deck profile, which, by the way, if you haven't watched that yet, feel free to check that out. I'll go ahead and link that here in the description. I also did a pack opening video, so if you want to actually open over 150 booster packs, I did that yesterday as well. Without further ado, though, I'm just going to dive straight into some Spright combos. Alright, so I'm going to start things off by showing the 1-card Spright Starter combo. Now, as always, as ever, when I do these combo guides, I only show the combo with the essential pieces only. Even though we have Spright Blue and Jet in our hand, and which would make for an insane amount of plays, I'm going to show you what you can do with, again, only Spright Starters. So just pretend that Blue and Jet are, like, I don't know, Max C's or something like that. Well, not Max C, that's actually a relevant combo piece, but just some other dead card. So I'm going to start by activating my Spright Starter here, and I'm going to use the effect to special summon Spright Blue from the deck to the field right over here. Now we're going to activate our Spright Blue's effect. Because it was special summoned, you get to add a Spright monster from your deck to your hand. That is important to note about both Spright Blue and Jet, is that they only get the search if they are special summoned. So definitely do keep that in mind. Don't think you can just normal summon it. It's not quite that good. It's like the only thing this deck can't do. So now that we have added our Spright Jet, I'm going to go ahead and special summon that to the field right over here. Now, as you can see, it is an inherent summon, which is pretty cool. The opponent doesn't have a chance to respond to the summon. So we're going to do the effect here. Once again, because Jet was special summoned, we get to add a Spright spell or trap card from our deck to the hand. Now, we've already used Spright Starter this turn. You can only activate 1 per turn, so rather than Starter, we're going to add Spright Smashers. It's not going to be part of our combo, but it's nice to have another piece of removal as part of your end board here. So we'll just go ahead and add these Smashers to our hand. Now I'm going to take my 2 monsters on the field and overlay them into Gigantic Spright. Go ahead and make that in defense mode right over here. Now I will activate the Gigantic Spright's effect. Detach Blue or Jet, it doesn't matter which. And now I'm going to want to special summon Swap Frog from the deck. Not a Spright monster, but actually Swap Frog is what you special summon here. Now, because Swap Frog was special summoned, I get to activate its optional effect. And from here, we're going to want to send the Ronintoadin from the deck to the graveyard. Alright, now we have our 2 materials on the board in order to make Spright Elf. I'm going to do that with Gigantic Spright and Swap Frog. And summon the Spright Elf to the field. Now, you don't want to summon the Ronintoadin out of the graveyard just yet. What you want to do before that is actually activate Spright Elf's effect. And we're going to use that on that Swap Frog we sent earlier. This is why you don't want to use Ronintoadin first, because that will banish the Swap Frog out of the graveyard. So, gonna special summon Swap Frog. Right over here, you want to put Swap Frog in one of the zones that Spright Elf points to, because monsters in Spright Elf zones can't be targeted. Granted, to be fair, if your opponent had a targeted negate, they would have used it a long time ago, like before this anyway, but that is something to note. Now, Swap Frog, believe it or not, is not once per turn. The effect to send a Water Aqua from the deck to the graveyard, so we're going to go ahead and use that. Be mindful, though, when you get prompted to activate Swap Frog's effect. If it's later in the game, make sure you're checking your graveyard and making sure that you actually have a Swap Frog still left in deck, because the effect can actually send a monster on the field to the graveyard as well. So if you're not careful, you might send your own Swap Frog that's on the field to the graveyard by mistake. So I'm going to send another Swap Frog that is in the deck to the graveyard. Now we can go ahead and fire off that Ronintoadin effect. I'm going to do so. Banishing the Swap Frog we just sent. And summoning the Toad. Now I'm going to go ahead and make my IP Masquerade. I was looking for it over here for a second. I was like, wait, where is it? I'm going to make IP Masquerade with Swap Frog and Ronintoadin. Drop that in that zone right there. And then once again we get to activate the Ronintoadin effect. Also not once per turn. Gotta love that 2009/10 card design. So there's the Ronintoadin, and that Spright Smashers we added, we can just go ahead and throw down right here. So that's what your turn 1 end board is going to look like during your end phase, but that's not necessarily all that you can do. Let's go ahead and pass to the opponent's turn and show off what the follow-up into the opponent's turn looks like. So now during their main phase, I'm going to go ahead and use the Spright Elf's effect, because this is during either player's main phase you can use it. And then we can special summon our Spright Blue once again. Drop it in this zone right here, and then activate Spright Blue's effect. What you would search is very dependent on what's in your hand, but if you didn't have like any other plays at all in your hand, then probably just want to grab a Jet, so that way you can Jet for starters on the next turn. And our Dragon Army opponent's going to continue to do stuff. But yeah, now at this point you have tons of different stuff you can do. As far as responses go, you have the Spright Smashers to banish a card on your opponent's field. Could also use the IP Masquerade to go into Appaloosa as well. Just want to make sure that you don't use all 4 materials here, because you want to save a level, rank, or League 2 monster for the Spright Smashers as well. So yeah, if we wanted to, we could even just, like I said, pull something like this. Summon Appaloosa. We'll use this and the elf as well. Why not? Sometimes it's actually worth saving the elf if you can, if you don't like necessarily need all those negates, because then you can use elf on the next turn to have like even more plays. And then yeah, you can just do like Spright Smashers. You can actually banish the Spright Starter out of the graveyard as the cost for Smasher, which is really nice. And so there you go. That's typically what like a typical turn 1 going into your opponent's turn looks like. And that's off of 1 card. That is the 1 card combo with Spright Starter. We have a lot more combos to get into, so let's go straight into the next one. Okay, so for this hand, I'm going to show you what you can do with Spright Blue plus any other level 2 monster. It's actually really, really good that we opened Swap Frog, and normally this would absolutely be the level 2 you'd want to normal summon, but let's say we didn't open Swap Frog. We didn't open exceptionally well. Let's just say we opened a Blue and Carrot, and the Swap Frog is a dead card. So Spright Blue plus an unexciting level 2 monster. Let's start by normal summoning our level 2 monster. That'll allow us to special summon the Spright Blue from our hand. Remember that Spright Blue and Jet both need to be special summoned in order to get their search. So we do need another level 2 monster in order to get this play going here. Now I'm going to use Spright Blue to add the Spright Jet from our deck to our hand. And then from there we can just go ahead and special summon the Spright Jet as well. And that is going to allow us to add either Spright Starter or Smasher. You could get Smasher here actually, it's not terrible. I kind of prefer Starter, because Starter is going to allow you to have the Spright Red access. I like actually having this as early on in the combo as I can, if it's feasible. That way I have some protection in case my opponent decides to throw out a hand trap here. So yeah, now we have all this on board. I'm going to go ahead and make the gigantic Spright. Definitely want to keep the red, but I'll just go ahead and use blue and the level 2 monster that we started with, which in this case is Carrot, which arguably you would want to keep Carrot on board as well in case they had like Imperm, but for this example it's fine. So Gonna go ahead and use the gigantic Spright effect. I'll detach either one of them, it doesn't matter which. And once again, just like the last combo, we're gonna special summon Swap Frog with the gigantic Spright. Now I'm going to activate the Swap Frog's effect. Let's send Ronintoadin from the deck to the graveyard before moving into our Spright Elf. So you can see why, again, I like having the Spright Red out here, because if our opponent had a monster effect disruption at any point, we could just sack off the Spright Jet and then be good. So I'm going to use Spright Elf's effect once again to bring back the Swap Frog. Like I said last time, you want to make sure that you're doing this before you activate Ronintoadin, because you do want to bring back specifically Swap Frog to mill another copy of itself, and that's going to give you another summon off of the Ronintoadin there. So, alright, now we can go into our IP Masquerena. I'm going to use Jet and Swap Frog in order to do that. Let's throw IP right over here. Now we have Z Ronintoadin effect. I actually could have brought back Ronintoadin now that I think about it. I didn't have to use, what did I use there? Oh, I used the Swap Frog on field, so I could have saved the Jet or the Frog, but it doesn't really matter. It's not like you need Jet on the field, so... at this point, if you wanted to, you could make, like, another card, but I would honestly just pass here, because you can use the Spright Red to send Ronintoadin, excuse me, Des Frog, from the field to the graveyard per its effect. You don't actually have to tribute a Spright monster, it just has to be a level, rank, or link 2, so... With this setup, we have the IP Masquerena to go into the Appaloosa and the Spright Elf once again, and then during our opponent's main phase, we would use Spright Elf to bring back, in this case, it really depends on the opponent's deck. Could use Spright Elf to bring back Carrot if you value the spell Trap negation. If you just want another Surge for extenders into the next turn, you could get either Blue or Jet here, but it's a pretty base combo of, that's again, Spright Blue plus any level 2 monster. So let's take a look at the next combo here. Alright, so now we're going to get a little bit specific. If your other level 2 monster besides Spright Blue is specifically Deep Sea Diva, and you have Yamatako Orochi in your deck, then you actually get to do the following combo line. So I'm going to start by normal summoning the Deep Sea Diva and activating her effect. It's going to let me special summon a level 2 or lower Sea Serpent from the deck to the field. I'm going to grab Yamatako Orochi. It's level 1, not 2, but it's actually still going to be very good in this deck, as you'll see momentarily. Now, because I have a level 2 monster on the field in the form of Diva, I can special summon the Spright Blue from hand and activate the effect. And once again, I'm just going to go ahead and add the Spright Jet. Now what you can do before making any other plays, and this is actually why I personally like having Yamatako Orochi in this deck, is for this line right here. Now we can actually make a Baron de Fleur. And you might be like, wait, you only have a level 1 and a 2 and another level 2, how are you doing this? Yamatako Orochi has an effect that allows it to be treated as level 8 for a Synchro Summon. So with our level 8, quote-unquote, tuner Orochi and the level 2 non-tuner of Spright Blue, we can make Baron de Fleur and use that to insulate our plays here. Now, I still have a level 2 monster on the field in the form of Diva, so I can go ahead and special summon my Spright Jet. Use that to add Spright Starter from my deck to my hand, and then you can just throw out the Spright Starter. You don't have to do this, but I think it's not a bad idea to throw out the Spright Starter just to get a red online, to have some extra negations. So, like, as you can see, we're already, like, this early into the combo, and we've already got multiple negations on board. And we haven't even summoned Gigantic Spright yet. We're going to do that now, actually, using the Spright Jet and the Deep Sea Diva. Let's go ahead and throw the Gigantic Spright right over there. And activate the effect. One thing that is important to note, I mentioned this in the deck profile, but I will mention it here as well. Most monsters, if let's say Gigantic Spright got targeted by Veiler, like let's just say Effect Veiler, right? You might be tempted to, oh, I can use Spright Red's effect, sack the Gigantic Spright, and then because the target's no longer in the field, I get to resolve Gigantic Spright's effect and Veiler will fizzle, right? It's actually wrong. Because Gigantic Spright is unique. This is actually like the one kind of drawback this card has, as opposed to other cards like it. Because you detach a material from a monster you control, and if you do, because this is an and if you do effect, this card has to detach a material from the field in order to get the effect. Now, if you take the Gigantic Spright off of the board, you can't detach the material from it, therefore you will not get the summon. I just want to make sure to point that out here real quick, but... in any case, I'm going to resolve the Gigantic Spright effect, detaching a material. It doesn't matter which one, I'll just detach Jet. And as always, we're going to special summon our faithful Swap Frog from the deck. Now we'll use the Frog's effect, send that Ronintoadin, and then link off the Gigantic Spright and Frog for Spright Elf. And then, like always, we're going to use Spright Elf's effect before we Ronintoadin, get back that Swap Frog, and activate the effect once again to get an extra material into the graveyard there. Or an extra material for a Ronin summon, that is, so. Now we can bring back Z Ronintoadin. I will banish Swap Frog in order to do so. And then we can make our IP Masquerena. Put that right over there, and then, as always as ever, Ronintoadin is not once per turn, so we actually get to do that once again. Banish the Swap Frog, and I'll keep the Link Zone open for Spright Elf. I'll just throw it right over here. So, yeah, when you add Deep Sea Diva into the mix with Yamatako Orochi, as you know, Deep Sea Diva as your level 2 monster alongside Blue, then you get the same setup, but you also get a free Baron de Fleur, like Omni Negate on the board as well. So that's pretty nice. And again, that's why I think it's not necessarily a bad idea to have Deep Sea Diva and Yamatako over Nimble Beaver and Nimble Angler. So there's that combo. Let's go and take a look at the next one now. Okay, so for this next combo line, all you need is any 2 level 2 monsters, which is honestly one of the reasons why Spright is so strong, is that you can make very solid plays off of, again, just having literally any 2 level 2 monsters on the field. Now, for the purposes of this combo, I'm going to use Deep Sea Diva and summon another copy from the deck, but just know that it does not have to be exactly Deep Sea Diva. If you're using Nimble Beaver and Angler instead, then you can normal summon a Nimble Beaver and accomplish the exact same thing we're about to do here. So, I'm going to normal summon my Deep Sea Diva and activate the effect. Because we're not going for the Baron play, I don't want Yamatako Orochi here, I just want another copy of Diva. Now we've got our 2 level 2 monsters on the board. I'm going to use those to make our Gigantic Spright because this card has completely generic material requirements for some reason. Well, 2 level 2 monsters, but it can be any 2 level 2 monsters, so. Alright, gonna activate our Gigantic Spright's effect, detaching a material. Now, every other time we've summoned a Swap Frog, but you know, as you can see, this time we don't have any of our Spright plays, so we're gonna need to grab a Spright monster this time. I'm gonna grab Spright Blue. Now, because Blue is special summoned, I get to activate the effect. I'm gonna add, of course, Spright Jet. And then now I get to special summon Spright Jet to the field. Gonna activate that effect next. And add a Spright Starter. This is probably looking pretty familiar at this point. Comboing with this deck really isn't too difficult. It's really more just about knowing how you have to begin your play. Once you get it from there, it's fairly simple most of the time. So, alright, here we'll go into our Elf. I'll use Gigantic Spright and Spright Blue. Throw that right over there. Get our Spright Elf's effect. Yeah, Diva only works when normal summon, so special summoning it will not allow me to get another copy. That would actually be insane, but... Alright, now Jet and Blue are going to be used to make IP. We'll throw that right over there. And so there you go. It's not quite as many materials on board, or as many pieces on your end board as it is for other combos, but do keep in mind that you can always use Spright Elf during your opponent's turn to bring back the Blue or Jet. That will not only allow you to get some hand advantage, but also give you something to send off of Spright Red for Monster Negate. And then, of course, don't forget that we always have the IP Masquerena to go for Appaloosa for more negates as well. So, again, while this might not look as impressive as the other turn 1 boards, remember that we got to this with, again, any 2 level 2 monsters in play, which is pretty insane. Speaking of using any level 2 monster for a combo, I have one more thing I want to show you for this combo guide. Let's go and take a look at that. Alright, so you've probably heard that this deck can actually search out Max C, and it is very possible to do that. It's not possible with like every single hand, but if you open Swap Frog and either Spright Jet or Blue, or I believe Starter, any 3 of those will work with this, then we can actually pull off a combo that will allow us to search a Maxi out of the deck and put it into our hand, in addition to our turn 1 combo plays. So I'll show you how to do that. Again, we're going to do that with Swap Frog plus Jet. So I'm going to normal summon the Swap Frog here and activate the effect. I'm going to use that to, of course, as always as ever, send Ronintoadin from the deck to the graveyard. Now I can special summon this Spright Jet and activate the effect. I'm going to use that to add a Spright Starter from deck to hand. And then from there, let's go ahead and just activate the Spright Starter. That will special summon a Spright Blue. And then we're going to use blue to add red for our kind of insulation there, again, against monster hand traps. So throw that red there. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make our gigantic sprite. I'm actually going to do that with Jet and with blue. Alright, let's activate the Gigantic Sprite effect, and Gigantic Sprite, as we've discussed before, that allows us to special summon any level 2 monster out of our deck, and guess what level Max C is? Yep, level 2. Now from there, I'm going to go into the Spright Elf, with the Gigantic Sprite and the Swap Frog, and summon it like so. Now, as we usually do, I'm going to use Spright Elf to bring back our Swap Frog. Gonna put it on the field like so, and then that'll activate Swap Frog's effect, sending another copy itself from the deck to the graveyard. So now I'm sure I know what you're thinking. Okay, we've summoned the Max C to the field, but Max C needs to be in our hand to use the effect. Well, Swap Frog just so happens to have the ability to return any monster on our fields to our hand. So there we go, now we have the Max C in our hand. From here, we're just gonna do more of our pretty standard fare stuff. I'm gonna get back this Ronintoadin, banishing that extra Swap Frog in our graveyard. And then now we can go into IP with Ronin and Swap. Like so. And then finally we will once again summon the Ronintoadin. And as always, this inboard is probably looking pretty familiar by this point if you've watched the other combos. So this is pretty similar to the level 2 plus blue / jet combo line. However, as you can see, in this case, if you already open the Swap Frog, you could just use the Gigantic Sprite to get out Max C and then wheel it back to your hand. So if you were wondering how to search Max C in this deck, that's how you do it. But I actually still have yet another combo to show off with you involving Max C. So let's take a look at it here. Okay, so for this combo, we're going to do pretty much, again, just the level 2 monster plus jet / blue combo line. But this time, our other level 2 monster is going to be Max C. Of course, being level 2, this card is not just useful as a hand trap in this deck, but as a starter. And not only, or as an extender, not a starter. But not only can you use Max C to combo, you can even bounce it back to your hand, so you don't even have to use it as a material. We're going to get to have our cake and eat it too. We get to summon this Max C, use it for plays, and then put it back in our hand. So I'm going to start by normal summoning the Max C. Now we'll special summon Spright Jet right over here and activate the Jet's effect. Jet could also be blue or Spright Starter. Any of those would work. I'm going to use Spright Starter to now special summon Spright Blue right over here. And now with Spright Blue's effect, I'm going to add the red, which I'll then special summon, as always as ever. Just doing this to make sure we have a monster negate up while we do our combo. So I'm going to go into Gigantic Sprite. I'm going to use blue and jet, like so. And then we will activate Gigantic Sprite's effect. Going to detach the material. Again, it doesn't matter what you detach here. And I'm going to special summon the Swap Frog from my deck. Now we'll activate Swap Frog's effect to, of course, send Ronintoadin. And as you can see, now we have the Max C and the Swap Frog on the field. That means we get to use Swap Frog's effect and put the Max C back into our hand. Now from here, we'll just make Elf with Gigantic Sprite and Swap Frog. At this point, you've seen this part of the combo line multiple times, but I'll still walk you through it here. You're going to use Spright Elf to bring back that Swap Frog from the graveyard. Got to do that before we banish it with Ronintoadin. That way we can set up an extra Swap Frog in our graveyard to then banish with Ronintoadin. Alright, bringing back the Ronin, banishing the Swap Frog. And special summoning the IP with Ronin and Swap. Boom, there's that. And now the Ronin. Gonna banish the Swap Frog. And boom, there you go. There is your turn 1 setup. The classic board we like here. And like I said, we even got to keep that Max C, wheel it back into our hand. Alright, so I think I've thought I've been on the last combo multiple times now, but I do actually have one more line I want to show you. I want to show you all a going second line to find 8,000 points of damage. So let's go ahead and just dive straight into that one next. Alright, so this last line I want to show you here, I think this is the last one this time. But this time I'm going to show you how to find 8,000 points of damage fairly quickly. And it's funny, all you actually need in order to do this is any two level 2 monsters. So once again, I'm going to use Deep Sea Diva just like our last any two level 2 monsters combo, but of course, just like last time, know that if you're playing the Nimble Beaver and Nimble Angler engine, this will work just fine. It'll, again, work with literally any two level 2 monsters. So, I'm going to summon my Deep Sea Diva, use her effect to grab yet another copy of Deep Sea Diva. Now from there, I'm not actually going to overlay into Gigantic Spright. I'm going to go into Spright Elf. Now I'm going to activate my Spright Elf's effect, bringing back one of those Deep Sea Divas that I just sent. Throw that right over here. And now I'm going to use these two to make Gigantic Spright, because not only can Gigantic Spright be made with a Link 2 monster, but if you use a Link monster as a material for Gigantic Spright, it comes out at 3,200 attack points. It's going to be critical a lot of the time if you need to find lethal very quickly, is utilizing that effect of Gigantic Spright. So I'm going to use Gigantic Spright, detaching a material. You have to detach exactly Deep Sea Diva here. If you detach Spright Elf, your Gigantic Spright is going to go, it's unfortunately going to plummet back down to 1,600 attack points, and then we're not going to be able to OTK. So I'm going to use Spright, or Gigantic Spright, to summon Spright Blue from the deck. Now we're going to use Blue to go ahead and grab Jet. Now let's special summon the Jet and activate. We're going to use Jet to grab Starter. We already had Starter here, but again, we're just going to pretend we didn't already have it. Now we activate Spright Starter to get Spright Red. And again, even though it's turn 1 here, this is a OTK combo, so that's why I'm summoning everything in attack mode. We're just going to pretend it's turn 2 and our opponent's got a clear board. So now at this stage, we're going to summon our Cat Shark. I mentioned this very briefly in the deck profile, but if you're wondering what Cat Shark is doing in this extra deck, I'm about to show you here. We'll use these two. And activate the effect of Cat Shark. I don't think it really matters what we detach here. And then we get to double up our Gigantic Spright's attack points. So now it's at 6,400. And now we have 6,400 plus 1,200 is 76. Plus 500 attack is going to make 8,100 points of damage. So if your opponent has a clear board and you have the ability to attack, that is how you find 8,000 points of damage in this deck with any two level 2 monsters. I have to give a huge shout out to Agnes, who is a helper in the Master Duel Discord for Sprites, who actually pointed out this specific combo to me. So thank you very much. I very greatly appreciate that. Alright, I think that now finally is all of the combos that I really wanted to make sure that I showed here in this combo guide. So, yeah, I hope you all found this helpful. And yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There, for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack, you'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation. You do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Hexlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.